This is a legal analysis of body camera footage from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office in Florida, captured on March 19, 2024, at Punta Gorda Airport. An intoxicated couple was removed from a commercial flight after a reported in-flight verbal threat. One subject was arrested, the other was released. The analysis examines the statutory basis, the constitutional posture, and the evidentiary record.
Hey there.
Hey, passenger in 31A and B, they were served, each of them was served a double. They then appeared to be intoxicated. They were threatening my flight attendant in the back, saying that they were going to beat her in the parking lot apparently, and making verbal threats. Another passenger reported it, so we want them escorted off.
Sorry. So they're intoxicated?
They appear to be intoxicated.
All right, so here's the deal. We may, depending on their level of intoxication, we may go ahead and arrest them for disorderly intoxication. We just want to need a quick statement from somebody.
All of us will be here.
Outstanding.
That's fine.
Just make sure we get, because we're going to need the statement.
Okay, 31A and B.
31A and B. Okay.
Charlie is not with them.
Okay. You too.
Yes, sir.
You're an A. This one, and you. Let's go. Move out the way, please. Get up and get out. We gotta talk.
Alrighty. It's new on me. Oh. Excuse me.
Let's go.
I'm going.
Yep.
What?
So here's the deal.
I really am lost here.
First of all, we got a call from the flight captain saying you two are causing disturbance. You got cut off, I guess, drinking or whatever, and
Like
somebody had made
how, but
I'm freaking talking.
I'm sorry.
Don't
sir.
interrupt me again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you two are causing disturbance. You've been drinking, and someone had made some threats.
The governing statute is Florida Statute, Section 856.011, titled Disorderly Intoxication. The offense has two alternative theories of liability. First, the subject is intoxicated and endangers the safety of another person or property. Second, the subject is intoxicated in a public place, public conveyance, and causes a public disturbance. A commercial aircraft is a public conveyance. An airport curbside is a public place. The statute is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and a fine of up to $500.
It's about taking care of some flight attendant out in the parking lot.
What?
Yep. They're willing to swear a statement on it. So,
No.
stand against the fence. Stand against the fence.
No
We're going
problem.
to conduct some
No
business.
problem. No problem.
As long as you act like a gentleman, you get treated like one.
No
But
problem.
if you give me or my deputies any problems, you're going to have a bad night.
No problem.
All right.
No problem at all.
Well, because you guys are drunk.
No.
Yeah, you're drunk. I can smell it. I'm not stupid.
Oh, we've been drinking.
Yeah,
I can tell.
But that is not
It's
what we
obvious
said,
you've been
though.
drinking. I can smell
We
it.
had a drink on the plane, but
Yeah, I know you did. It filled me in. Apparently you didn't like the way some things were handled by the flight crew, and you guys
No,
said stuff you shouldn't have.
no.
freaking problem whatsoever.
Well, you know what?
I'm just going to say the only thing that I would...
Save it. Save it. Save it. It is what it is. We can't. When it comes to flights, there's no tolerance.
We're apparently wrong, so it don't
There's no
matter.
tolerance on flights. It's too dangerous. You can't act a certain way and make threats. So,
I know we
well,
did,
somebody
but it's
did.
Okay. Somebody's accusing us. Just shut your mouth. It's our fault. Okay?
Anybody here been in trouble before? And nobody's on any kind of probation or anything like that, right?
No, I'm a truck driver.
Okay, that don't mean you're not on probation. I know truck drivers are on probation.
Yeah, no.
So, all right.
I know some that should be, but
Yeah. So, bottom line is, when we get called, it's not a good thing.
But
I need to shut up. Shut your mouth. We'll talk over.
So we're going to get with the flight crew once they get everybody off the plane. Apparently, they were drinking on the plane. They got cut off basically and just talking shit. And another passenger even mentioned it, and that they were threatening to beat the flight attendant's ass out in the parking lot. So I'm going to hook them for disintox. They're going to go to jail today. So, but I'm going to get the statements from them first. But they definitely want to pursue it.
So can you tell me exactly what occurred here today?
We had 2 passengers who had boarded.
Do you remember what time that boarding was?
Connor, what time did we start boarding up there?
I can look online.
Okay. So you had boarded, and then what happened?
Passengers boarded. When they came on, we observed that they were loud a little bit, but they were friendly. We were communicating, kind of making some jokes, getting everybody seated, and everything was fine.
Okay.
We went to serve our snack and beverage service, which is usually about 30 minutes into the flight. They were a little loud, and as we served them beverages, they requested doubles. We served them to them. We had not observed any slurring, anything that all 4 of us didn't recognize anything that they were inebriated.
Okay, so they, in your opinion, they were sober when they walked in?
Yeah, is that agreeing with everybody here? We didn't notice any alcoholic behavior
I didn't
from
notice
them.
anything.
Okay.
No, nobody observed anything. So we did serve them doubles. After we passed them, and we were about 3 or 4 rows ahead, the woman seated in A, and I don't, her name isn't here, she was cursing, and I politely walked back and kind of quietly addressed her and said if you could just please not curse and just kind of keep your voices down. Other passengers were eyeing us and asking us to speak with them, so I just did that.
Why was she cursing? Do you know?
She was using the word shit and damn, and it was
In general, or talking to the husband?
just outward. They were talking to each other, but they were very loud with it, and it was disturbing other passengers.
Okay.
So I just asked them to please just, tone down the volume and to please not curse. Other passengers were disturbed. And apparently after that, we went on and completed our service, and then once we got back to the back galley area, I had a passenger come back and inform me that she had made a verbal threat, that she was going to find me after the flight, and she was going to take me out.
And who did she say that to? Did she say that to you, or just in general?
She was talking with the husband. I assume it's her husband seated next to her, and it was quite loud, and the passenger seated in Charlie, which is the aisle seat in front of her, came back and informed us that she had made the threat.
And she was going to do what to you after?
I believe what she said, but she was going to take me out. She was going to find me after the flight and take me out.
Okay, and that was a statement from passenger A.
Correct.
From the one that was...
31 Alpha.
Florida Appellate Authority defines disturbance narrowly. In Blake v. State, decided in 1983, the First District Court of Appeal held that smelling of alcohol, using profanity, and talking loudly in a public setting did not alone constitute disorderly intoxication. Mere offensiveness is therefore insufficient under Florida law. The state must prove conduct rising above rudeness or volume. Here, the elevating fact is the alleged verbal threat, specifically the statement attributed to the female passenger that she would, quote, take out the flight attendant after the flight in the parking lot. Without that threat, the conduct closely resembles Blake. The evidentiary foundation for the threat is third-party hearsay. A flight attendant alleged as the target did not hear it. The threat was reported by a passenger seated in row 30, who in turn had overheard it. At trial, that passenger becomes the indispensable witness first. Without that testimony, the threat element collapses, and the prosecution is left with profanity and elevated volume, which Blake v. State expressly excludes from the statute. This is the central trial vulnerability of the charging theory.
Okay, she said that, and who was that passenger sitting that told you that?
She was sitting in 30 Charlie, and I have her name and phone number.
30 Charlie, okay. And
her name is...
And then what happened?
Then at that point, we just became aware and we started listening, and she was getting very aggressive, making faces at people and to our staff, and she was talking loudly, looking for me. Where is she? Where did she go? Just continual those types of statements, like not letting it go. She was just getting more aggressive.
Okay.
We were talking loudly. Other passengers again were observing it. So I continued to just kind of stay in the back and not bring any, not poke the bear, so to speak.
Did she make any threats to you directly, or was it just being mouthy? Any of that?
I did not hear anything directly to me again because I stayed in the back not to further amplify the situation.
Did any of the other passengers complain? Did anybody else say anything other than that one lady in 30C that overheard that comment?
I feel like everyone was in agreement with it. It's not like
I'm sorry?
I feel like everyone was in agreement with it. It's not like what passengers said, but it's the eye contact as we walk by and then looking at them. It's the silent communication that we received.
Okay, they basically gave you the evil eye?
Just to try and get our attention to get
The other passengers he's referring to.
Boarding started in Louisville at 7:30 p.m.
Whenever you're finished with her statement, we'll go inside to get hers out of the way.
Okay. All right, Stephanie. So we talked to all the flight attendants and tried to figure out what goes on.
I would like to know what went on too, because I really don't know.
You don't know what happened.
I was told at one point that I am naturally loud. I am really naturally loud. And I was told to watch my mouth, and I said, yes, ma'am. And I didn't say anything the rest of the flight. I just looked out the window.
Well, apparently there was several of the passengers that were disturbed by what you were doing, what you were saying. Apparently you uttered a threat.
To what?
Against her. Can you stand up for a second for me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come over here. Turn around.
So the charge is going to be disorderly intoxication. So you're going to have to go to jail tonight. You're not going to go to jail, but she is.
But what did I say?
Give me yours. Thank you. No, you don't. You don't remember, do you?
No,
They only served you one double drink. You can't be that intoxicated from just one double drink. So you probably came on the plane already intoxicated, didn't you? So it got a little out of hand. That's all it is. So you're going in for public disorderly intox, and that's it.
I know.
all right. So what's going to happen to me?
I'll take you down to jail, drop you off.
Okay.
We'll talk to the judge tomorrow morning.
And what about my husband?
He's fine. I'm coming to get you. So, okay, you ready? I'm going straight to Bucking to pick you up, baby.
That's my.
Yeah, I got all that stuff.
That's my.
Yes, I have all that. Thank you. Yep, man. I appreciate it.
Fourth Amendment governs the warrantless arrest. Under Atwater versus City of Lago Vista, decided in 2001, the Supreme Court held that a warrantless arrest for a minor criminal offense, even one punishable only by fine, does not violate the Fourth Amendment when supported by probable cause. Florida Statute Section 901.15 authorizes warrantless misdemeanor arrest for offenses committed in the officer's presence or upon credible witness affidavit. The arrest authority on this record is therefore facially valid. The Fifth Amendment analysis is more contested. Under Miranda v. Arizona, decided in 1966, custodial interrogation requires advisement of rights. 4. Substantive questioning. The recorded interview at the fence occurred after the subject was no longer free to leave, satisfying the custody prong. Questions about pre-flight drinking elicited an admission, specifically the statement that, quote, it got a little out of hand. No Miranda warning is audible on the released recording. A motion to suppress that admission would have a colorable basis. The 14th Amendment claim is weak on this record. Disparate treatment of two similarly intoxicated subjects is justified by a facially neutral, articulable distinction. Only the female subject was identified by an independent witness, source of the verbal threat. Equal protection is not violated by individualized probable cause. Use of force remained at the lowest tier throughout the encounter. Under Graham versus Connor, decided in 1989, force is judged by objective reasonableness from the scene. Handcuffing of a compliant subject satisfies that standard. There is no viable excessive force claim on this record. 3 lessons emerge from this encounter. First, for law enforcement, probable cause is necessary but not sufficient. De-escalation tone protects the prosecution from suppression motions, shields the agency from civil exposure. Second, for the public, silence is the strongest right at arrest. An admission given without Miranda may still reach the jury. An admission never given cannot be used at all. Third, for prosecutors, a disorderly intoxication case built on volume, profanity alone fails under Blake versus State. The threat witness must be located, interviewed, and made available. Without that witness, the file should be reconsidered first. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below. If this analysis was useful, consider subscribing for further legal breakdowns of police interactions. Thank you for watching.